Greetings to everyone, and welcome back to your own military history channel. So far, we've seen the tragedy unfold. From the disaster at Namkachu to the collapse at Tawang, the false hope of Sela, and the wasted heroism at Nuranang. Each step showed us not the failure of the soldier, but the failure of leadership. And now, friends, we move into the darkest phase, Chapter 11, Part 1, the implosion of 1962 war. If you are learning, growing, and walking with us through this journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want the PDF notes, feel free to contact the number shown on your screen. Without further ado, let's begin today's journey. As Sela shivered under storm clouds of war, a very different journey was taking place far away. On the afternoon of 17th November, a sleek silver super constellation lifted off from Delhi. Inside sat General Gen Thapar, Chief of the Army Staff, his face drawn and silent. And beside him, Brigadier D.K. Palit, Director of Military Operations, scanning urgent situation reports. Their mission was desperate, to somehow salvage a crumbling front after the fall of Walong, before the next hammer blow fell on Sela. From Delhi to Tezpur, then on to Chabuya, the flight carried not just men, but the heavy weight of India's faltering war. As Thapar and Palit flew east, Army headquarters in Delhi still lived in illusion. Maps showed Ladakh secure. In any FA, they believed two brigades firmly held Sela, forming an unbreakable wall. But the truth on the ground was very different. Only one brigade stood watch at Sela, stretched thin, freezing, and cut off. And even as Delhi sipped tea in comfort, Chinese infiltration across Poshing-la had already begun. Columns of men and pack animals, carrying mortars and guns, slipped silently through the snow. The enemy was already inside the gates, and no one at headquarters even knew. By 5 p.m., the super constellation touched down at Tezpur Air Base. On the tarmac stood Eastern Army Commander, Lt Gen Bogey Sen, and his staff officer, Brigadier H.K. Sibal. Their salute was formal, but their faces told the truth, grim, weary, and burdened. Just hours earlier, the storm had finally broken. The Chinese had launched their main offensive at Sela. As staff cars rolled past the fading light of Assam's tea gardens, the generals carried a heavy realization. They had arrived not to prevent a disaster, but to witness one already unfolding. As the convoy sped through the Assam dusk, tension filled the staff car. Brigadier Palit, stunned, leaned forward. But Fort Garhwal had repulsed 4 attacks at Nuranang. Why order them to withdraw? General Sen's reply was cold, clipped, ask the GOC yourself. Silence followed. Only the hum of the engine. Chief of Army Staff, General Thapar, said nothing, his eyes fixed outside the window, blank, as though searching for answers in the darkening countryside. The road grew darker. So too did India's fortunes in the war. Inside the Corps operations room, the atmosphere was suffocating. Radios crackled with bad news. 5 guards surrounded at Thembang, roadblocks tightening, and reports that both 62 Brigade and Division headquarters were already trapped. Brigadier Palit could no longer contain himself. Everyone is withdrawing. If the guards fall back, Bomdila and Dirang will be wide open. But General Sen didn't even look up. His reply was cold, almost detached. It is not my job. In that dimly lit room, maps glowing red with enemy arrows, one truth became clear. The battle was collapsing faster than the leadership could react. In that cramped operations room, Brigadier Palit turned desperately to the chief. Sir, you must take command. General Thapar leaned back, eyes heavy with fatigue. At last, he muttered a single word in Punjabi, Eho. Yes, but it was hesitant, uncertain. He suggested a few minor adjustments, nothing more. General Sen cut in sharply. If 4 division breaks now, it may still survive. Palit shot back. No, its duty is to fight at Sela, not to run. Yet the telephone kept ringing, radios kept buzzing. And from the top, no clear order came. India's front line awaited direction, but leadership had frozen. At Dirang Dzong, Major General Anant Pathania clutched the field telephone, his voice tense. He exaggerated enemy reports. The flanks are gone, the roads are cut. His staff whispered nervously. Some even saying, the GOC is preparing to run. Back at Corps headquarters, Brigadier Palit slammed the desk, shouting into the line, no withdrawal. Hold Sela at all costs. But Pathania wasn't listening. In his mind, retreat had already begun. Even before a shot was fired at the fortress, doubt and panic were eating it from within. At Sela, Brigadier Hoshiar Singh stood tall against the storm. To his men he had written, Sela is impregnable. Even if we are cut off, we must fight. This is our soil. The Garhwalis had just proved victory was possible, and Hoshiar Singh demanded reinforcements to hold Nuranang. His soldiers listened in silence, their faces hardened with resolve, their spirits lifted by his words. But then, a message arrived from division headquarters, cold and final. Withdraw for Garhwal. Against his own judgment, Hoshiar Singh had to obey. The fortress that could have stood was being weakened not by the enemy's guns, but by orders from above. At Dirang, Major General Pathania painted a grim picture for 4 corps. He declared Sela untenable, demanded immediate withdrawal, and spoke as if collapse was already certain. But the truth on the ground was very different. 62 Brigade still held strong, its defenses intact. Reinforcements were available. Tanks from 7 cavalry stood idle at Senj. Yet instead of strengthening the fortress, Pathania obsessed over saving his own headquarters. His fear spread like fire through the ranks. Officers whispered, the Chinese are invincible. What should have been confidence turned into doubt. That evening, in the cold glow of a hurricane lamp, Brigadier Hoshiar Singh gathered his officers inside a Sela bunker. His message was clear, Sela can hold. With air supply, we can fight here for a week. But from Dirang, General Pathania pressed for retreat that very night. Hoshiar pushed back. A hasty withdrawal in darkness, he warned, would trigger chaos and panic. At last, a compromise was struck. The withdrawal would wait just 1 day. It was a fatal decision. Sela, the strongest fortress India had in any FA, would not fall to Chinese firepower. It would be abandoned by its own orders. History often turns on moments of choice. At Sela, one such moment was lost. Had General Pathania pushed 65 Brigade forward, joined hands with Brigadier Hoshiar Singh's men, and struck as one force, the Chinese advance could have been trapped, their columns cut off in the valleys. But instead came hesitation, defeatist whispers, and the fear of another Nam Kachu. Sela was never beaten in battle. It was undone before the fight began. As we close this chapter, one truth becomes painfully clear. Sela was never truly lost to Chinese firepower. It was lost to hesitation, to fractured leadership, to men in headquarters who feared shadows more than they trusted their soldiers. Brigadier Hoshiar Singh and his 62 brigade stood firm, ready to hold out for days, perhaps even weeks. Yet, the decisions taken far behind the front line dismantled, that chance before a single decisive blow was struck. This is the tragedy of Sela, a fortress abandoned not in defeat, but in doubt. Friends, with this we end Chapter 11 Part 1, The Implosion of 1962. In our next part, we will see how these fatal choices played out, the retreat, the chaos, and the collapse that followed. Stay tuned for Chapter 11 Part 2. Until then, Jai Hind.